You know, it's like he's really falling into people.
It's so Schumer is the
No, but it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Awful week. Girl, shit on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that'll be there in the TV.
Wait, can we just have one fucking day without some booze?
Nope.
Alright, cool. Thanks. Thanks for
Zero words. Paul Harris has written a sort of first take studying this and going to another, and I'm going to add a lot to. Yes, and I will sort of put that in. I'm looking to get all the files from there. Which is doing something. Well, great. Or it could be way
Happy Friday.
yes. It's TGIF.
Oh, yes.
I like to say TGIM.
They got
Did you
Monday?
say that all around?
Oh.
Can you know that?
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. That way you're not running back.
Yeah, I mean, Paul has already written it off in a sort of skeleton story, so you and I now sort of adding and fleshing out. So just yeah, don't worry about it. I'm gonna try to control the. Yes, it is. It is territory. They should be expelled. Really?
Absolutely.
Don't you think Trump will? And I think well, that by definition is politically explosive for a presidential candidate, isn't it? And I mean, to be honest, I also think use the phrase special counsel very simply to hear that this is to use and so on. I think it's getting
I didn't write anything about it, but I saw his.
So yeah, don't worry about finessing big right moves. Just sort of send me gobbets, which I
It's gonna get worse.
can weave in.
So brace yourself. Only the things.
What are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
You know the briefing's delayed till 3:30, right? Everybody?
That's for real. I was thinking it was delayed. I thought it was delayed till 3:30.
Was it sent around and
Okay.
It was.
Well, I
You know the exact
You
phrase.
received it.
I did. Okay. Well, I might go get some food. How are you doing?
It's nice to be back. It feels really weirdly normal.
How's the new thing?
It's based on Emily's
Yeah.
replacement.
Sure.
Even though it's just zero. But so
Thanks very much. Cheers.
it's like I came in on last Monday and then we won the midterms.
Wait, you said you're Emily's.
So like Emily's a deputy now and I'm her portfolio. And this is impressive, right? Well, I come in and like, we want midterms and inflation's going
So
down.
what's your portfolio then? Is your
Wait a
portfolio- is your
minute, are you
portfolio
saying that
all on-
because you came back?
No, no, I'm just saying there's a
And-
clause in.
and
I'm not
because
saying-
you
I'm
came
not
out
saying
your
there's a clause in
inflation's
that. I'm
down.
just saying that
Are you
is a
sure?
factual statement. It's the economy.
It is like all of her stuff. I didn't realize it, because I was like looking at yesterday about this stuff. I was like, what?
Sorry, she normally.
And I knew she had gotten, like, I knew she was doing a lot of the stuff that Megan was doing around that.
Yes,
Without the
exactly.
hassle of having to, like, wrangle us.
She was doing the LinkedIn stuff, and now she's able to do
She
that
has a little office.
full time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. But
Does she still do a lot of this funny stuff? I feel like I was dealing with her. Well,
because
that was
I
before the
only
midterms.
started,
Yeah, she was.
because there's a break where she was deputy, so she was doing her normal deputy
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
plus what she
Plus
had been
economy,
doing.
yeah, 'cause I was
She
bugging
was
you
like,
about inflation.
she was asking me to come and like, I need you to grab up something from treasury.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. We're delayed apparently, which I just.
Good.
I know, right?
Oh, really?
How are you? And congratulations. Lord, he's a National
Sorry.
Book Award finalist.
Oh my god, congratulations. I don't know if we've probably met Michael.
Oh, okay. You were right about your book that won the award when you were here.
Yeah.
That's so, oh,
On
yes.
first book, yeah.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. Well deserved.
So this is your back,
My
and
back.
that's your portfolio is like the economy section. So I'll be in touch, yeah.
My email has changed, so
Oh.
it happens every time you leave and come back. So like some people here are like,
Oh, so the old email you had back in the day is no longer right?
yes, but you don't. No one outside of the.
Hold on, what's your email then?
Yes, there's just an A in the middle. I can type it up for you.
One second.
You go outside.
I'm just gonna put you in the sheet because
That's totally fair. As long as you can find it.
yeah, okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, please go ahead.
Michael, MICHAEL. Or do you want to type it?
No, it's fine.
Michael.
Michael.
Dot A as in Apple. Dot.
Dot A dot.
Kikukawa. KIKU. KWA.
Sorry,
KIKU. KAWA. At WHO. Dot. EOW. There's, yeah, just the A is the new thing.
So the A is you didn't have an A.
So it's, then that's almost more, there's only just add a letter to a number to the end of your thing, but instead they added a number.
Well, welcome back. I honestly thought you were here earlier. I saw you briefly when you were going in, and I thought, oh, it's because it's a treasury event. And that's like, I was like, oh, he's here to like supervise Jenny.
Oh, yeah, I should have thought of that. Someone's probably here. I could have said hi to you.
I mean, I like legit was like, oh, this is like why you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. I'm here.
Okay.
It's fun. It's fun. It's been great. They said some of the weird 2 weeks to show up because it's like not much happening. President was gone. Midterms, like you know, we're only talking about that a little bit, obviously, and so yeah. And you know the news is so much easier to deal with than. Like, there's always like if there's good news, nobody's gonna heard about it. So.
And congratulations then, I guess, on coming with your promotion.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway.
So 3:30 is the briefing. I
3:30.
actually don't know that I saw that.
Yeah.
Let me grab
There's
snap
not a.
that.
There should be a full note, but.
Is there a pull out? Maybe there is. There's no.
It was sent to the full L line part feeling. Oh no, she has had it in there. The full part 5. It's at the bottom of it. Which is maybe has a way to say that.
Delayed till, did she say till 3:30?
Hi, David Smith. So you're back from right.
Getting the new
Oh, yes.
travel. I feel like there's a lot of
I think I mean, yes, the obvious stuff.
extended families, everybody's got Thanksgiving weekend, and like, well, that's
I used to be exactly across one of
not
those.
with one, but
When I
no,
first
okay, I
applied
used to like
to
watch
grants, the American Express had it.
But they gave it up. And
like retake.
Exactly, it's what I do.
feel like academy is
monitoring
doing one
elections.
other job,
Yeah.
and right now I feel like I'm doing two jobs. So that is a lot.
Yeah.
But how are you? Are you guys still doing stuff with the book, or are you?
Right.
It wasn't too years ago.
Here and there, like this week I went to Minus Book Fair, so there are like a few events. I'm not as active as I was in college, but that's sporadic.
There's like a, I
Things.
hope that there's something that
Like
like
some annual events that only go up once a year.
Like
Yeah. Wednesday.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, that was
That
great.
was exciting.
yeah, call it like, I don't know.
Clear.
So we did that. There were like a couple of events around.
So how's it to be back now?
Yeah, since
Our schedules just overlap. I feel like I'm in a rotation with somebody else.
This is like my third.
I feel like I'm here with Cleve a lot,
Yeah.
and like there's like different. Do you like being back or?
Yeah, it's different. It's taken a while, taken me a while to get back to the process of writing.
Oh, versus.
Yeah. And then that's why it's different than all. That's what happened to me. I from crazy. And like being back in the newsroom, because I was actually for something.
And I said, well, you know, how do you find it?
Parentally,
She said, oh, we thought you were best.
it's kind of amorphous on my parental leave.
So I went wrong.
For book leave, so
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
but
Was he a baby?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
Why
guess
did
I
you not do that? You did it.
Oh,
Wow, congratulations.
That's the other thing.
That's a lot. I know. But you, that was like after you had already written it, or during?
It was after the manuscript was in, but we're like,
Oh my gosh.
so it's kind of like mixed in.
It was just what I
So
did.
wonderful.
So let me just ask.
Oh my god, so it's like, yeah.
I know the same house on the Jonas, so we probably be so
So
tremendous.
the book leave is
Have you checked
Ben.
You know, I
believe it's
about a week or so ago, I did see some
Okay.
but she said she's been making fun.
I'll check. I'll check with
They
them.
were started.
They want to get all these.
That's the thing.
Oh, you're like, it's all.
It was during the
What did you
arrival of
guys
the
get
book.
for?
We technically get 20 weeks. So I didn't take 20 weeks.
Because you
the
also
book.
did
It's
fun,
coming out.
yeah.
So
I
I can't really calculate.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's
it's like-
probably what kept me away for so long.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Let me bring it in after you.
It was it your first or?
Let me just introduce you to.
So that's the other, like,
Oh, life,
being
yeah.
back and like working
Yes.
and being working.
Yeah, I feel like it changes a lot. Though I was saying at the end of the day, I feel like naturally we have two like very close order. So one is half, the other is two. It's like they're just really close to each. And so I say that, and I do think I do in my life, because now it's like you multitask everything, you like just learn to get one task. And I think also I've learned that some things don't have to be done as well as I am a therapist. Like you can do them sufficiently versus like perfectly. And that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, my husband's, I mean, my husband's the biggest thing kind of like because he used to love to have like a super clean house. And I've just been like, you know what? You can leave the dishes. You can leave this thing. Like we have a Roomba, but like it's just like it's just like we don't have a big enough space to have like something clean the house. But this has also been like clean. My husband grew up sort of with not as much sort of economic means. I would say. So he really struggles with for anything. He's like, we're able to wash our own dishes. We can clean our own bathrooms. And I was like, that's true. We don't have like our own do this. And yeah, so I think that's part of the thing. But I do think now having that kid, I do think being earlier as a career out is maybe a much better work for kiddos. Like, I'm not interrupting my dinner right now to do this. I can't wait until like 8:30 at night after my kid goes to bed. Well, for us too, we don't have any shirts on at that one time, so it's like, later, it's got our morning show, and then get back on time. you guys are on the
Yeah,
website, I
we're
guess.
online. So, yeah, but one of the things that took the shop was George, and I was the first, one of the first reporters that ever call back. He doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Like a great
Is your
call.
husband no, Cletus?
He doesn't have kids. He has me and he doesn't have kids.
Okay.
Crash doesn't have kids. So it's actually just me and last night. Ashley Parker was.
Yeah, I remember she did. And that's kids are good.
Oh, yeah, next time.
Which is like a different channel. I just feel like at least you don't have to like.
Oh, yeah, I was on a kid.
At least you don't have to like. They can like change their own clothes and feed themselves.
Right.
I think those are milestones you get to reach. Or like the day that like literally goes back to the
Right.
open up the fridge themselves. That would be big. That being said, I will miss already our dad's almost 22. Like he doesn't sit still. I had a big family growing up. We had 4 in our family. So sometimes I was like, yeah, which I loved. Like, I loved it. Because, you know, if you get tired of one second, you can always choose which one. And I'm in the middle, which I think is very Good there. So it's interesting. Which one do you, I get along best with? Like the middle two of us.
Yeah. So,
Okay, and then your sisters?
my sister's from there.
Oh, it is 3 boys. You know about your sister? She's like, what's that?
No, she's like,
She's like,
oh, she actually lives in DC, so I'm close to there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Geographic.
Oh, interesting. What's the age difference?
So we're all within 8 years. My sister is 4 years older than me.
Basically, December.
We're, I mean, we have a span of 10 years from the eldest to the youngest on big, but my brother is actually the youngest. For some reason, I do feel like he feels a little bit left out, just because we would like hold it together, like go shop, like do things he's not that interested in doing when we get together.
Yeah, this is one.
I don't know, but sometimes I think like, a lot of
So he's fine with the departure and arrival,
stay in Washington DC, that's, because we grew up in Indiana,
That's a good thing. Well, no.
don't bring it
Oh,
because
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a troublesome thing, and on Monday, so we're doing the turkey thing.
Yeah, 'cause I actually had a good number of
Gonna do
friends.
that,
Well,
you
most of
know.
my friends were from but obviously fast, like it was, most people had moved to at least where I grew up. Most of my friends
I'm gonna be looking out.
now it feels strange, like I have a couple of friends who have
Well,
I have some family friends.
it always
I might.
yeah,
I don't know now.
I was wondering too, at one point I'm like, maybe my parents were just like
I'll
laughing.
just help
Like,
hold it.
maybe they just
Right?
let us
Hold it,
do
yeah,
our
hold it.
thing, because I feel like maybe I do too much for my children.
yeah.
You know what?
Did you go for the big house?
It depends also.
I would think he'd be around that week. I would think he'd be away between Christmas and New Year's.
I know, yeah. And we all turned out okay.
But we got through really
Yeah. I think the one thing, no.
Yeah, so it looks like, Tuesday the 3rd.
Question I always wonder about, I have no is that
I
life
hope
is very
for
expensive now. Daycare, like school,
But
those types of things.
thank
Cost
you.
so much. We live in an apartment right now. Second of 3, it means you have to go from like a car to a minivan, and you have to go from like a apartment to a house, and those are like big cost of living adjustments, especially for things you cannot afford right now. I do think Thanksgiving is Ryan. I mean, this is like a 2-person family, so I also always think, what if one of my children is going be like that? You know, right? Like 2 is really lonely. I'm like, if one goes rogue, that's really sad. At least if you have like 3, you're like, all right. Chances are at least hopefully 2 of the 3 will turn out okay.
your first time.
Oh, you guys, is your wife a journalist?
No, she's just like a project manager studying environmental.
Is her work here?
Yeah, it's mostly remote, but she's in the
Because I was just thinking, like, sometimes people go out working.
For the book, I moved to Houston for a year. And so there,
Is that where she's from?
well, I have a brother there. Good chunk of the book is set there. It's a
Oh,
pandemic,
okay.
so we
Yeah,
went
yeah,
off
yeah.
and
Okay. Oh, that's actually good. Yeah, yeah.
and we, Texas obviously you get much more space
Yes.
for your money.
Yes.
So it's kind of nice.
That's like my brother-in-law, they're in Florida actually, so my husband's from Jacksonville, Florida, and my brother-in-law was living in Tallahassee for a bit, and it just, yeah, it's amazing. It is still amazing, like how people out here, and it's like this, like, you don't need to be super, super rich to afford these things, you can be like, above average.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're still they're now everybody my brother was in Virginia, just moved back in with my parents actually, and so I'm not sure, I think they're gonna stay because where we are, it's like an hour. And a lot of people live in Indiana. When my dad it was his work, and a lot of times like that. It's like the New Hampshire, Boston. It's very beautiful, but it's also cost of living is like cheaper. Whereas like Chicago is very, I don't know, it's just sort of like even like my best friend lives in the city and it's like very and so they lucked out, like the school she's in is good, but I don't know the thing she's going to do. Sometimes the magnet school is good. And the magnet school is also like high school. I don't know. I sometimes think that like I don't know all the college guys here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Crown Point High School, public high school. Okay. I was listening recently to a story, actually it was on one of the NPR stations, where they went to this high school in the suburbs of Boston, called Wayland. It's like an affluent suburb, it's mostly white and Asian, and they were talking to students, given the cases going on in the Supreme Court right now, and the girl they interviewed, I think she's because she was like, work, she's like, I know this is good, and the girl was Indian American, but she had this sense that she's not putting things in the because at a disadvantage, and I don't know, part of me thinks like that, because we always think about the back to Boston, that's such a stressful thing to live. We're also like, they were talking about the fact that like this is what the kids when they're talking about and who's applying to which college, which college they're into, because the idea that like getting into that college is a chance to work as opposed to what you do out of that degree. But yeah, I guess it's also like I say this is like as much as I feel like it's actually like fixation. You guys get like status that education, which I mean, I sort of understand, but I think it's like more prevalent on
It's got bragging rights and all.
yes, exactly, right?
Nigerian.
It's simpler, right? That's what, yeah, I was gonna say, one of my good friends in Boston used to say the same thing. But I guess, I don't know, I mean, maybe part of it is because that is like the way, I don't know if it's like Nigerian she didn't really care what we did, she was like, whatever, as long as she liked it. She also like grew up in the US, like this is like, but like, she was a real byproduct of like, hippie countercultural stuff in Europe, so she's very like cultural in a lot of ways. South Asian, she's also very much, doesn't see the benefits of that all being said, though, I now feel like having them on the I very much push my children. Like, do you like science? Well, if you like science, here, I can encourage you to take this robotics class. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm becoming a person.
This is the one to come directly. So, Michael, how are you guys?
Thanks for the stuff that you guys are just then over here.
3:30 or is it later?
Trump.
No, this is the one to come direct. This comes directly back to you.
Birthday.
This doesn't go to the right.
Halloween party.
Halloween party.
I literally don't have a question.
But you don't hear me?
Celebrating birthday.
I mean, it's like.
No, you should.
You can't be off stage
Back to you.
that age.
Transfer me up to.
I was gonna say, she's not really should be here.
Yeah, I didn't.
I also didn't have English as she was.
Hey, Dave, Zergy in my house. How you doing?
Why do I know that?
Can you help me out?
Yeah, because you didn't take me and her at that lunch.
Yeah.
Together
I
in
will
park.
say they,
I'm just wondering.
no, I have no idea. That's it. I forgot about that. I didn't realize it was that.
Whatever this is, please go with me. This is the how the direct seat.
They were in Penn, at Penn, I think. I know
You
all
and
the
me.
celebrities. You're like.
Okay, this is the seat, right?
Fabulous. Political celebrities.
Is that where is that?
That's a thing.
This is a unilateral question, Mike. This is not the pool. I don't know. This is directly back to 2020. Not going through Iraq, not going through the pool, going right back to you.
Any reactions from Trump, I guess.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
I'm in North Carolina. I'm in Carolina.
No, this is not the cut. This has nothing to do with the pool. Let me. One two one two one two 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's it. Which mic is this? Tell me before I know.
I think putting national
Okay.
security materials and advertising.
Where do you find this so I know for future reference? Move forward cuts. Okay. This. Okay, this will be arrow key question language. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Cheers. Bye.
English restaurant, go Ivy.
takes you his time. Yeah, yeah. Epstein, I would give him an average. I don't need that was a while ago. Mine was like, year was like 400. 400. I think it's higher now. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Yeah, I'd say 5 to 6 is about right. I think that's reasonable. But yeah, I'll send you the one contact that I have. Yeah, no problem. Does a lot of production stuff.
Excuse me?
Young guy, high height.
Good seeing you, Jordan. Did you mark?
Tim Kumar. Is he still do stuff for you guys though? You guys haven't been hiring him. Nice. Good.
Anyway, Monday. So I sent you that. Okay, and then so first thing you have to do is fill out that wage portion. At the bottom.
You don't have any fellas or anything? Sir? You don't have any?
No, no.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I have like 4 Stellas and a couple of Stellas. That's what I used in Ukraine. That's all I took. Yeah, that's all we were using. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're just, they go everywhere. They're great.
They're fully charged.
Yeah. But you know, like, I was like starting not long ago.
they buy 3 bags of chips. Which a nice guy there, they paid $42. He said, well, no. Somebody buy. I was like, what's a bag of chips?
Hi, Joey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, so, no, I'm just not kidding. She
Just got pushed back.
Again?
Hello, madam.
Hi there, how you doing?
Happy Thanksgiving. I know
Feel,
you
feel,
you plan something.
Still waiting to see.
Oh, yeah.
The big house.
Do we have I hope so. I'll say two things. One, you okay? That's what I'm saying. However, the second thing I'll say before you answer that is that I also but I mean, the 1600s. You know, do you know we sort of get out like you feel like they'll turn away and say sorry, not paying.
Yeah, we'll go through it. But it included altering all roads. You'll get it,
share as well. And I say that with full caveat that they may not even be very happy paying our share, never mind yours. But I can ask, you know, sometimes you get surprised. Sorry? Sure, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's. Should we? Actually, we've just got a new design which we can do to be able to add exciting when we get the build, we'll actually talk about it and see where we're at. Yeah, I'll
Yeah, they say that again. 60.
Right. Well, the guy who's making it is yeah. Exactly, yeah. Right, yeah, that's right. That's right. Right, everyone be watching that,
Your legs.
Right.
You have to hang down this promise a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
You're just changing the topic.
I couldn't catch up with you.
Huh?
I couldn't catch up with you.
Let's talk about walking out and all that.
Is he way behind the others on the other
Yeah.
Good times.
This is my idea.
I mean, it's like Charlotte, I have most of the other shop I did this week, but today, like,
Huh.
So I just, so I went home to edit it though, to be honest, but I think it was my last draft actually. Yeah, it's been up for this week. Next week looks fine, should we like start slower? Then it's chaos the week they come back.
Yeah.
Hello. Hanging around for the summer now.
Yeah, yeah, but
So I just, like, I went like 6 hours an hour that day.
Sure, but
That's not being lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like a good use of your time.
So, like a couple of years.
oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I mean that is stuff.
It's just Sonic Dance investigations that go nowhere. You know, I was here looking for different jobs in investigations, and there was a job ticket services.
Well, I mean,
22,
you
25.
didn't go to the yesterday, it's not like right, 'cause we're sticking out with us.
I'm surprised it's that many, but it does, you know, we did a podcast.
And then I was due back on planet Earth.
I'm just annoyed that we missed a Stephen Miller reunion in Park Development while we were all
Right.
waiting for Nancy.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
And no one's on leave, so no one knows how he got the camera. But
Careful, Trump, you know, that, I don't know, I've never seen Steve Miller.
I heard. I mean, it's just like, I was, so. And like, I was like, it's so fun, like, so I just like,
what we do with that campaign speeches when they talk to the private speech to the press. It is
I remember this White House News transcript of those.
first they showed fireworks. They're
the two of our reporters are there, like, trying to find Nancy. I saw the video.
so ridiculous.
great stuff. Yeah, let's keep in touch. Hello? Alex? No, I've filed it. Run it as well, I did email it to you, but are you able to open the composer? Are you still waiting for a tutorial from me? It's possible. The quickest thing then, if you just email it to me and I'll forward it to him. Go for it. I actually agree with you about mentioning classified material as being German 6 as well. Thank you very much. Send out an email back. Good.
Hello? Hey,
No, I'm supplying food through
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm all set.
so who's Trump himself? Oh, well, we should put Trump behind again. Trump will we'll bring it to some Trump work involved. Right. So, very good question. That's for the desk side. They will then mix. How many content they have. I think for it to work, I will work on the yeah, it'll be the first question, sure. So I'll obviously add that to the story. I sort of think he probably shouldn't have told him that it's because he's meant to be very defensive. So you had a lot of ammunition to. Okay. So it seems like if there's an amount of people that have the own support the US sort of. So in my case,
yeah, I wish I worked at Disney, that was
business level about
yeah, but I could have got a lot more. Are you doing it again?
whatever.
What days do you have?
Well, I
Did you?
we're going to full time. super nice.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'll get
Too crazy either. No, but like even this like I got a rice bowl for lunch.
well, I mean, it's even.
You really are like, okay, this is where wealthy people are trapped.
Tuna rice bowl. Like why would you do that?
I have no other option. So there's not that stuff chains there, like you can't find like hamburgers or something that's like unique places. Yeah. Which is great, but then they
Really?
just charge you a
But
lot.
like my run last year was on water, which was nice. But like every morning at 6:30 the ferry picked me up on the ride. I was like,
Oh my god.
like look up on the window and the giant
But has anyone ever established that sort of road?
That's good. Funny you saw like that was where are you guys staying? Do you have a hotel for this time?
it's the same hotel that Nikki and I are both for.
Nice. That'll be really fun. Actually like my whole family situation.
Yeah.
House. That'll be cool. For you guys, I feel like it would be fun to do it. Just try a holiday.
It's like remote.
Courtney was. Somebody. Well, let's say she's coming back. Yeah, so where's a little bit of a shot glass. Also, I guess it's not like a on campus.
Yeah, it was something to love.
But I think at 12, so someone who just had a Catholic wedding, she technically
For sure.
the full
In my
mass
case,
was on church. So I bet that like today, she was getting married in church. Hopefully,
But,
if they want like a true Catholic wedding, and then tomorrow will be like a Western
so I don't.
Yeah, so it's, I bet it's because it can't, like, so many people
I'm perfectly happy to be his.
because it's way too long also.
Yeah.
Just do like 45 minutes.
Yeah, television. I still live in Bisbee.
Man, then I assume they'll do like
Yeah, I hope those come out like in a quick
they
way.
said tomorrow between like the
How big's the refugees reception?
Truth Jerry.
Yeah, like after that.
Probably nice and cold.
Oh my god, like, the birthday, I was like,
But at the same time, also warm. And when you're going, I'm like, through it. Yeah. So this is a little bit too complicated.
right. I wonder if you can
Friday, right? It's like prove it.
Yeah.
So
one
what I mean,
thing
what
where-
I'm getting at
Friday.
is just I am personally interested in. Okay. And beyond that,
They're trying to figure out that time.
to make also.
I'm pretty sure we got their number.
and then at what time?
It's like half the day you're gonna.
Right, so they'll be back Tuesday. When do they?
Twitter.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Gotcha.
Oh, this is trying to start a fight. They are right. The minute she says something about it.
Ruling it into existence. And then
They're
go
already.
But it'll be, so
No, I don't want to block you. No, but I didn't know you said that.
Yeah, I did.
I'm actually.
Did you get your bunch of suckers? I've never agreed with my colleagues, I disagree.
350 is now 450.
Change. I'm actually looking forward to it. That's a hard out.
I've seen that look. I call it.
Nobody in the pool got any more
Maybe she's trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets. The way to refresh.
About to be ashamed.
Yep.
The press briefing will begin in 2 minutes. The press briefing will begin in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
That's why you look fresh.
Long time no see.
That's true. Yeah, you guys could do a lot more of that.
Yes.
Although we were doing like midday.
Happy Friday.
I have a green screen with a body back. Can I at least order a drink? Pretend I was there?
Umbrella in it?
Yeah. It's not fair. It's just not fair.
I had a feeling it was going to be.
Look human.
Yeah.
Because it happens at sundown, correct? Doesn't mean it didn't happen, correct? It started
Yeah, it could be.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
And welcome back to those who traveled abroad with us. Good to see everyone. Okay, I just have a few things at the top before we get started. I know you all saw President Biden's meeting with business and labor leaders this afternoon, where they discussed the progress we have made building on an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, and giving Americans across the country more breathing room. One example of that progress, today we learned unemployment rates in many states across the country remain at or near record lows. People across the country are going to work, getting paychecks, and benefiting from one of the strongest jobs recovery in history. Our labor market, consumer spending, and business investment all remain remarkably strong. And as the president's economic agenda takes hold, we continue to see historic new investments in America practically every week, from chips to clean energy. America is on its way to leading the world again by rebuilding our infrastructure, supply chains, and manufacturing here at home. On another topic, the president, as you know, has taken great pride in making sure that his administration looks like America. And now that we have a little clearer picture of last week's election results, we wanted to highlight how Americans turned out to elect a few diverse and historic public servants to represent them at every level of government. Here are just a few, if you just hold on here, I'll go through them. First, a record number of female governors were elected in this year's midterms. Maura Healey from Massachusetts and Tina Kotek of Oregon were elected the nation's first openly lesbian governors. Wes Moore will be the first black governor of Maryland. We have the first Gen Z member of Congress, Maxwell Frost of Florida, who is also Afro-Cuban. And in New Hampshire, James Rosenier is the first trans man elected to a state legislature. Delia Ramirez will become the first Latina to represent the Midwest, and Alex Padilla is the first Latino to be elected as a U.S. Senator from California. And lastly, the four largest cities in America, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston, are each going to be led by an African-American mayor. There's more progress to be made, but we're encouraged by these strides at all levels of government toward leadership that looks like the country. Now, as you know, President Biden doesn't back away from a fight. You've heard him say that himself, especially a fight for the middle-class American families. Today, we took that fight to the Supreme Court. We're asking the nation's highest court of the land to allow us to deliver student debt relief to millions of middle-class Americans. Under our plan, nearly 90% of the benefits will flow to Americans making less than $75,000 a year. Many will be saved from delinquency or default. Others will be able to buy a home, a car, or just start a family. This is critical breathing room that many middle-class families were looking forward to. And it's outrageous, just outrageous that Republican officials and special interest group are trying to block that, are trying to make it harder for these middle-class Americans across the country. We are confident in our legal authority to carry out this program, and we won't let these baseless lawsuits stop us either. And finally, as we head to next week, I have a little bit of a week ahead that I wanted to share with all of you. On Monday, the President will pardon the national Thanksgiving turkey in a ceremony on the South Lawn. The President will celebrate the 75th anniversary of National Thanksgiving Turkey Presentation, reflect upon the time-honored traditions of Thanksgiving, and wish American families a safe and healthy holiday. The 2022 National Thanksgiving Turkey and its alternate were raised near Monroe, North Carolina. In the afternoon, the President and the First Lady will travel to Marine Corps Station Cherry Point, North Carolina. There, they will participate in a Friendsgiving dinner with service members and military families as part of the White House Joining Forces Initiative. On Tuesday, the President and the First Lady will travel to Nantucket, Massachusetts, where they will celebrate Thanksgiving with their family. On Thanksgiving Day, the President and the First Lady will call members of the military to thank them for their service. On Sunday, the President and the First Lady will return to Washington, D.C. And with that, and welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while.
I haven't seen you in a while either.
Right.
Glad to hear your voice is a little better.
A little better. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Housekeeping question.
Absolutely.
Can you help us understand why the briefing was delayed?
Absolutely. It's just been a long week. There's a lot to cover, as I know you all have a lot of topics, and it just took a little bit of time to get us out here tonight. It's almost tonight, this afternoon, as the sun is probably setting at this time. But no big reason. There's just a lot going on today.
Okay. Was the President aware of the Attorney General's decision to name a special counsel to oversee the investigations into former President Trump, and is there any reaction from him to that decision?
So just first, I can just tell you, no, he was not aware. We were not aware. As you know, the Department of Justice makes decisions about its criminal investigation independently. We are not involved. We have not been aware about this particular investigation or any criminal investigation. I would refer you to the Department of Justice on any questions on this. But again, we were not given advance notice. We were not aware of this investigation.
Any reaction from the President?
No reaction. Again, this is going to be up to the Attorney General, up to the Department of Justice as it relates to a criminal investigation. But I can tell you that the President was not aware, we were not aware, we were not given advance notice, and I would refer you to Department of Justice.
And then on the brief the State Department filed last night in the Jamal Khashoggi litigation, does the President have any concerns that the administration may be sending the wrong message about his commitment to holding the Saudis accountable on human rights? And can you say whether he signed off on that?
So just let me just say at the top, just so that there's clarity, and I know that you've heard from the State Department on this as well and other colleagues, at the request of a federal district court for U.S. government views on whether Mohammed bin Salman enjoys head of state immunity, the Department of Justice, at the request of the Department of State informed the court that Prime Minister bin Salman is immune from suit in the U.S. courts while he holds the office of Prime Minister. It's nothing to do with the merits of this case. I want to be very clear on this, but this is something that that the State Department and the Department of Justice has more details on. So I would certainly refer you to them.
And then just one last question. Can you say if the president was COVID tested after he got back from Indonesia? There was a possible exposure there, and then tomorrow he's going to be among guests at his granddaughter's wedding here?
No, it's a good question. I can tell you that he was not a close contact. If you're speaking about John Kerry, he was not a close contact. I can tell you that. I was not able to have an opportunity. It's just been a busy day to check in on when he was last tested, but certainly we will check in on that.
Thank you.
Just to press this again, though, was the president at all involved in the State Department's decision regarding MBS and this Khashoggi case? Was he consulted by State Department officials, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, anybody else? Was he asked to weigh in?
So look, again, this is immunity determination is a legal one. That's what I was laying out earlier. The United States consistently has afforded head of state immunity to heads of government, such as prime ministers, consistent with customary and institutional law. U.S. practice on this issue is longstanding and consistent, including a number of head of state immunity cases from the past 4 administrations. And the example is President Aristide. This was of Haiti in 1993. President of Zimbabwe, the president of Zimbabwe at the time in 2001. Prime Minister Modi, India, as we all know, in 2014. And the State Department and DOJ will have more information for you on these particular pieces. I'm not aware. I'm just going to answer that. I'm not aware of any conversations providing advance notice, and so I can just say that I am not aware of any of any advance notice to this particular issue.
Okay, 2 tech-related ones. There's some Democratic senators today calling on the FTC to investigate potential violations of consumer protection laws by Twitter. Curious if the White House agrees that perhaps that agency should do that, or has any other comment on the ongoing calamity at that platform.
So, look, as you know, the FTC is an independent agency, not going to comment on any actions that they may or may not be taking. Again, not going to comment. They're independent. I'm going to leave it there.
Does the White House plan to continue using the platform amid the uncertainty about its future?
So, look, you know, we've seen the reports, as all of you have, on what is currently happening with Twitter. You know, and but we're not going to speculate on its future of the site or what may happen next to the site. But we're just not going to comment from there.
And there was a meeting yesterday between some Silicon Valley CEOs and White House officials regarding the passage or the potential passage of the big tech antitrust legislation that's been pushed by Senators Klobuchar and Grassley has bipartisan support. Does the president support putting that bill on the floor during the lame duck, as various groups are calling for?
So I'll say this, it was a thoughtful and a productive meeting, the meeting that you're speaking of. We are very committed to moving ambitious tech antitrust legislation, as you've heard us say before, and we're stepping up engagement during the lame duck on the president's agenda across the board, including antitrust. There's a bipartisan support for these antitrust bills, and no reason why Congress can't act before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just first, really quick following up on what you said about the special counsel. Even if the president wasn't aware ahead of time, I'm sure he is aware now. Can you provide any details about who informed him today, when he learned of the news, how he learned of the news today?
Again, I'm just not going to go beyond. I know you're asking me about the president specifically. I've not spoken to him before coming out here, so can't give you details on that. I'm assuming it was a senior member of his staff would most likely have let him know about the special counsel. But again, I just want to make very, very clear, we were not giving advance notice. This is the Department of Justice makes their own decision when it relates to criminal investigation. We were not involved, and so just want to make that very clear, and not going to say more about this particular case from here. I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
And I wanted to ask you about what you said at the top about the administration reaching out to the Supreme Court to intervene on student loans. Should Americans at this point be prepared for the reality that the student loan forgiveness might be entirely blocked, or should, at the very least, should they prepare for the reality that it's not likely they're going to get relief by January 1st?
So look, we are confident in our legal authority to carry out this program. We're taking this fight to the Supreme Court so that borrowers can quickly, we believe, by doing this, by taking it to the largest court of the land, that it helps us get clarity in a quicker way and relief to those who truly deserve it, who really need a little bit of breathing room. So no matter how hard, again, this is what we're seeing here is what Republican officials are trying to do. They're trying to block a plan that's going to give relief to middle-class Americans across the country. We're going to continue to fight, as I just said at the top. The president is never afraid to get into a fight, especially when it comes to the American people. We are taking this step because we want to get to a quicker clarity on this, and we're going to continue to fight.
It's the holidays. I mean, millions of people are trying to figure out their budgeting right now. Should there be an extension of the moratorium? Has there been a decision on that? Or what would your advice be to a borrower that's not sure what's going to happen?
And that's why we're calling out Republican officials. You're exactly right. Millions of Americans are trying to figure out their budget. Millions of Americans are sitting around the kitchen table trying to figure out how are they going to pay for critical items that matter to their family. This is why the president actually took the step to give relief to the American people. Look, we're examining, to your question about the potential pause, we're examining all options to provide middle-class families a little extra breathing room, as you hear the president say, as they continue to recover from the pandemic. But it's clear, we are confident in our legal authority to provide relief to student borrowers, and the president won't stop fighting for them. Again, we are just not going to walk away from it. This is why we're taking this to the Supreme Court.
I can just ask one more about this weekend. Why is the White House going against precedent and not letting any journalists in to cover a bit of this wedding that is taking place here at the People's House?
So let me just give you a little bit of a wedding TikTok, because I know many of you had some questions. So 11 a.m., the ceremony on the South Lawn will begin. Family wedding party luncheon immediately after, and then there will be an evening reception on this very joyous occasion. These are two young people who have decided that they want to spend the rest of their life together, and the president and the first lady are going to be able to participate in their first grandchild's wedding. But here's the thing, and here's the reality: the wedding of Naomi Biden and Peter is a private one. It's a family event, and Naomi and Peter have asked that their wedding be closed to the media, and we are respecting their wishes. This is something that the couple has decided. So, but understanding you all have interest, understanding that the media has interest in this, which I can understand. It is a joyous occasion. We all want to celebrate them. We will be releasing pictures, photos, and a statement from the president and the first lady following the ceremony. Again, this is their wish, and we should be thrilled and happy for them in making this really important step in their lives.
I wanted to close the loop on some Ukraine-related matters and then a domestic issue as well. Just first on Ukraine, it doesn't appear that there was any conversation at all between the United States government and Russia while we were in the midst of that crisis where Russia was being blamed for the incident in Poland. Milley came out and said that he wasn't even able to reach the Russians on the phone. What should the Americans take away from that as far as our preparedness for, a nuclear standoff with Russia if we can't even get them on the phone in moments of crisis?
So look, we've always been very clear here, as you speak about as you ask a question about a nuclear standoff in your words, but we've been clear from the outset that Russia's comments about the potential use of nuclear weapons are deeply concerning, and we take them seriously. And we continue to monitor this as best as we can, and we see no indications that Russia is making preparations for such use. So that is also important, that we do not actually see those types of preparations or indications, I should say, for Russia making preparations. So as we have said,
you can't get them on the phone.
well, look, I mean, what I'm saying is that we've been very clear. We've been very clear in public. We've been clear in other conversations. You've heard Jake Sullivan said that he's been in touch in the past with his counterpart about this particular issue. We've been very clear. We're not going to lay out in public what those conversations were, but we've been very clear that this would be catastrophic, and there would be consequences. The president has made clear over and over again on this particular issue. But I think what you should take, honestly, from what you saw that morning, overnight, as you all know, there was an explosion in Poland. What you saw this president do is bring leaders from 11 countries to hold a meeting. He did that in about 55 minutes. He brought leaders. Some of your colleagues were in the room, were able to be there for a pool spray and capture that moment. And this is what this president was able to do. This is because of his leadership globally. And you saw him do that at G20. You saw his leadership there. They were and those leaders were very, very clear about where they were on what was occurring with Russia and Ukraine, and calling that out, and saying that what Russia was doing was inappropriate. What Russia was doing was brutal. What Russia was doing was attacking the sovereignty of another nation. And so we have seen this leadership of this president, and I think him saying this publicly, very loudly, about what would happen if nuclear weapons were used to Russia, I think is a loud statement within itself.
Okay, one more on Ukraine. President Zelensky said that Russia's proposed a short truce. Is that something that the White House has an opinion on? And also, has President Biden talked to President Zelensky about his assertions that it wasn't a Ukrainian missile involved?
So let me first say this about your last question. Let me answer that first. So U.S. and Polish officials have been in touch with Ukraine to clarify the facts. Chair of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council has said that Ukraine remains fully open to a comprehensive analysis of the situation. The party ultimately responsible for this tragic incident is Russia, which launched a barrage of missiles on Ukraine specifically intended to target civilian infrastructure. So we have been public about the fact that our information supports President Duda's preliminary assessment that this was most likely the result of a Ukrainian air defense missile that unfortunately landed in Poland. But the bottom line is Ukraine has a right to defend itself, as we have said many times, and Russia should end this war. This is something that they can do today.
And just on the short truce.
I'm sorry, can you say your question again?
Zelensky was saying that there was a short truce that was proposed by Russia that he doesn't support.
I would refer you to the government of Ukraine. I have not heard those reports.
One quick domestic one. So 58 Democratic lawmakers have called for trading corporate tax cuts for extending the child tax credit in this lame duck session. Is that something the White House has an opinion on or would be willing to?
So, look, as you know, the president strongly believes that any bill that cuts taxes for a big corporation must also cut taxes for working families, working American families, and working American families with children. So, as the president said following the election, he is proud of how the child tax credit expansion he signed into law helped cut child poverty nearly in half. In 2021, both Democrats and Republicans have put forth tax relief ideas for families with children, including the families who are struggling the most. And the president believes that these are the kinds of policies we should be prioritizing. Go ahead.
Green. First of all, on the appointment of the special counsel today, former President Trump reacted to this news in an interview, calling this the, quote, worst politicization of justice. He said that this was an unfair and political decision. I'm wondering if you have a response to that.
Look, I will say this, and I've said this many times before, we do not politicize the Department of Justice. That is something that the president said during the campaign. That is something that the president said in his early days of being in the White House, and that continues to be true. We were not involved in this particular issue. We are not involved, and let me just say that more broadly, we're not involved in criminal investigations that are done independently by the Department of Justice. We were not given advance notice. Again, I would refer you to Department of Justice on any questions on this, but this is not an administration that the president has been very clear that will politicize the Department of Justice.
And then on the MBS immunity issue, the administration was invited by the court to make a filing in this case, but it was not required to do so. So why not let the court make its own determination as it relates to MBS's immunity, particularly at a time when you're supposedly reevaluating the relationship with Saudi Arabia?
So look again. It's a federal court requested the government's legal position, so the Department of Justice provided it. That is what occurred, and that is what happened.
It was not required, is the question.
I would refer you to the State Department on any other specifics. This is what I'm laying out to you: is that a federal court requested the government's legal position, so the Department of Justice provided it. The immunity determination is made based on longstanding and well-established principle of common law. Including customary international law. The United States has consistently and across administrations applied these principles to heads of state, heads of government, and foreign ministries while they are in office. The immunity flows directly from MBS's role as prime minister in the Saudi government, which he was appointed to in September. Again, I would refer you to the Department of State on any further questions.
One last question. The top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Comer, has said that he's investigating the president's involvement in his son Hunter's foreign business dealings. Looking for your reaction to that, and then on the merits of the allegations, can you address whether the president was involved in any of his son Hunter or his brother's foreign business dealings?
So look, there's a little bit of interesting, kind of on-brand thinking here because. Congressional Republicans ran saying that they were going to fight inflation. They said they were going to make that a priority. They were very clear about that these past several months. And instead, what they're doing is they're focusing, they're making their top priority. They get the majority, and their top priority is actually not focusing on the American families, but focusing on the president's family. They're not coming up with solutions on how we're going to lower costs for American families. They're not coming up with solutions on how we're dealing with issues that matter the most to American families. Look, the midterm elections were very clear. They were very clear where Americans said they wanted us to deal with real issues. They wanted us to deal with what we were seeing with democracy. They wanted us to deal with how we're going to fight for freedoms and for rights of the American people. And so that's not the first thing, that the top priority that they lay out is an investigation on the president's family. Look, my colleagues in the White House counsel's office are handling these threats of investigation by the House Republicans. So when it comes to specific allegations, I would refer you to them. I'm not going to get into specifics of what that might look like or anything else that's related to this.
On camera as it relates to the merits of any of these allegations, because
I've been very
can speak
clear.
to them, but not on camera.
I've been very clear. It's like, Republicans said that they were going to. During the midterms, they were going to fight inflation, right? They said that they were going to deliver for the American people, that they were going to actually do things that give relief to the Americans. And what they're doing instead, their top priority when they get majority, is to talk about investigating the president's family, instead of doing what they said that they would do, is giving support to American families. That is what we're seeing. But again, it's pretty much on brand. Go ahead.
Thank you. In light of the legal fight over the president's student loan debt forgiveness program, is the president considering extending the moratorium on repayments that is set to currently expire at the end of the year? The NAACP and other advocates are pushing for that extension.
I sort of just answered that question, and I said all options are on the table.
So that's under consideration.
I'm just saying all options are on the table, but what I really want to be clear here is the reason why we took it to the Supreme Court is because we want to come to resolve on this very quickly, because we understand what American families are dealing with at this time. And so, look, and we're going to continue to call out Republican officials and special interest groups who are instead of giving relief to American families on a plan that will help 90% of the borrowers will be making less than $75,000. That matters. And so again, all options are on the table. I don't have anything more to say, but again, we're going to continue to fight.
I know you said the White House is confident that the president has this legal authority, but how confident is the White House that a Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative majority is going to intervene on this matter?
Look, what we're saying to you is we are not going to walk away from this fight. The president is not going to walk away from this fight. We feel pretty confident in our legal authority to provide relief to these student borrowers, and so that is what you're seeing from us. You're seeing a fight from this administration for a plan that's going to help tens of millions of people. As you know, 26 million people, borrowers already went to the website and filled out those applications. And so that tells you that this is a popular plan that matters to American people across the country.
And lastly, on a lighter note, the president turns 80 years old on Sunday. How will he be celebrating that moment?
So the First Lady is going to be having a brunch on Sunday for the president and to celebrate the president's family. The president's birthday on Sunday with his family. Usually they celebrate it on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but because the family's going to be here this weekend, they'll have an opportunity to celebrate his birthday on his actual day.
Thanks. The American Academy of Pediatrics is calling for the President and HHS to declare a public health emergency in response to the surge in cases of pediatric respiratory illnesses. They're saying that this is going to free up, or could free up, funding and make a national coordinated effort on this issue. Is this something the administration is considering?
So when it comes to public health emergencies, as you know, we've mentioned this before on different occasions for different issues. That declaration that comes from HHS. So the HHS secretary would determine the public health emergency. That is the case still here with the issues that you just laid out. But I do want to take a step back and talk about some of the sicknesses we're seeing right now. I'd like to make really a few points because I think it's important. First, on COVID vaccinations, we're seeing some encouraging numbers on vaccinations. Last week, we saw the most vaccinations in a week since January 2022. And this week, we saw another high number of vaccinations. At the same time, we need to continue to drive urgency around getting your updated COVID vaccine. It's our best protection for the winter. So for Americans who are watching right now, it is important. If you haven't yet, please do get your new vaccination, especially as you go into the Thanksgiving holidays and you're going to see your elderly grandparents. This is an important step to take to protect not just yourself, but them as well. Second, flu is also increasing right now. We have safe and effective flu shots, but not nearly enough Americans are stepping up to get their flu shots. On both flu and COVID, we are doing a lot of work to engage doctors and have an ad campaign in place. But this is another critical tool we must all encourage ahead of winter. Get your flu shots, folks, please. It's very important. Look, vaccines are our best tool for both of these issues when we're talking about the flu, when we're talking about COVID, and we'll all need to encourage folks to get the protection right now, today. It is important to do so. You can even get them together if you wish. You can get both shots in both arms. Go do it, please. And lastly, I want to note that HHS has been abundantly clear that it can provide resources to jurisdictions as requested. Already they are hosting town halls to hear about any needs, and CDC is doing extensive work with doctors just across the country. But again, folks need to make sure they get their vaccinations. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I want to try again on MBS and just ask you to respond to his fiance who said of this decision to grant immunity to the Saudi Crown Prince. Quote, Jamal died again today. She said, we thought maybe there would be a light to justice from the USA, but again, money came first. What's your reaction?
Let me just first say that the president's feelings about what happened to Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi, are very well known. And as we have said, he brought up the issue. He brought up Khashoggi during when he met with the Prime Minister, as you know, this summer. So he's been very clear. He's been very clear about that over the past several years. So as it comes to this case, the immunity determination, again, is a legal one. It's nothing to do with the merits of this case. I want to say that again. It is nothing to do with the merits of this case. I would not read anything into this filing when it comes to the future of this relationship. We've been very clear about that from here. The president has been very clear. And I just want to reiterate a couple of things here. We announced a series of actions last year in response to the killing, as you all know. We froze offensive arms sales, released the IC's Khashoggi report. We imposed visa bans on nearly 80 Saudi officials. We sanctioned Saudi officials and entities, including the Royal Court's Rapid Intervention Force. And we are working with Congress to more broadly reevaluate the relationship, which is something that we have done, meaning we do this in a bipartisan way, which is important as we reevaluate the relationship, because it's something that we have done the past 80 years.
And what is your message to his ex-fiance? What do you, and I understand you're laying that out, but what do you think the president would say to her directly to what she said?
I would say, look, our hearts go out to her. We understand she lost someone that she loved very dearly. We totally get that and understand. This was a legal determination. The immunity is a legal one, as I just stated. It has nothing to do with the merits of the case. Want to be very clear about that, and we wouldn't read anything into the filing when it comes to the future of the relationship, which I have said we are evaluating, which you've heard from the president and which you've heard from Jake Sullivan and others in the National Security Council.
And to that point, and you referenced the trip, in the wake of that trip, you were asked if the president still believes that Saudi Arabia is a pariah. At the time, you said his comments stand, and I wonder if that's still the case today in the wake of this decision.
His comments stand. I'm just not going to go beyond what the president has said in the past.
Try one more on the White House wedding. As I'm filing on his wedding and previewing it for folks, I'm looking at all of this video and images that we have of Tricia Nixon's wedding, Alice Roosevelt Longworth's wedding, the Johnson family's wedding, and the historic record that now exists because the press was let in and able to get a glimpse of it. Why not just let the press in for a few minutes to have access? And again, this is a wedding that's happening here at the People's House, not at a private residence.
Yes, I totally understand. It's happening at the People's House. It's a beautiful moment. It's a joyous moment between this two young couple who have decided, it is their decision. They have decided to make this wedding private. It is a family event. And we are going to respect Naomi and Peter's wishes. This is going to be, the wedding of the First Lady and the President's first grandchild, and these are their wishes. They want it to be private, and we're going to respect their wishes. We are going to provide a photo and a statement from the President and the First Lady after the wedding, and again, these are their wishes, and we're going to respect that. Go ahead.
Thanks. Karine, Russia says it's working with the U.S. on a potential prisoner swap. Can you comment on where this stands? Could this lead to the release of Brittney Griner?
Yeah, I've heard these reportings. Let me just say something at the top, because there's also been reporting about the location of Brittney Griner, so just want to get this on the record. So we're in frequent contact with Brittney Griner's team, and are aware that they were able to visit her earlier this week at IK2 in Mordovia. The administration continues to work tirelessly to secure her release. As I said, when we first learned she was moved, the president has directed the administration to prevail on her Russian captors measures to improve her treatment and the conditions she may be forced to endure. The U.S. government is ready to resolve the wrongful detentions of American citizens in Russia. We have made an offer, have continued to follow up on that offer, and propose alternative potential ways forward with Russians through all available channels. We hope Russia is ready to negotiate in good faith. And you've heard us say this before. The Russian government's actions have contradicted what they have said publicly. Over the last several months, they have failed to seriously negotiate through the established channel or any other channel, and that's what we're going to see. On the prisoner swap, your specific question, we're not going to comment on specifics of any proposals other than to say that we have made a substantial offer and that the Russian Federation has consistently again failed to negotiate in good faith. And you've heard us say that before. They need to negotiate in good faith, but not going to get into specifics of the negotiations.
Also, Corinne, following the issues surrounding Taylor Swift ticket sales this week, some Democratic lawmakers have been calling for more scrutiny over Ticketmaster and Live Nation, questioning whether that merger should continue. Does the White House think that there needs to be more scrutiny over Ticketmaster? And there's some reports that DOJ is investigating Live Nation. Are you aware of this?
So, I would refer you to the Department of Justice on any investigation. I'm just not going to comment on any potential investigation from here, on enforcement matter from here. We respect their independence, as we have said many times from here. As a matter of just economic policy across industries, the president has been very clear. He's been crystal clear on this, and I quote, "Capitalism without competition isn't capitalism, it's exploitation."
Is there anything the White House is doing? He had talked about concerns about hidden fees recently. Is there anything that you're doing in this space?
Yeah, he talked about that just a couple of weeks ago. Look, as you all know, the president is a strong proponent of increasing competition in our economy. You've heard him talk about this over the past several months. As he said last year when he signed the landmark executive order on competition. And so the president's executive order that he did very recently establishes a whole of government effort to promote competition in the American economy, because we know lack of competition leads to higher prices and worse service. So as you just mentioned, Lucy, he mentioned, Catherine, I should say, he mentioned, I'm like, Catherine, Lucy, two first names. Anyways, people call me Jean-Pierre, it's fine. He talked about excessive hidden junk fees. He recently called on all federal agencies to reduce or eliminate these fees, and the Federal Trade Commission has now started to work on a rule to crack down on unfair free practices across industries, which would encompass ticket processing fees as well, among those many junk fees. So again, this is something that the president takes very seriously, that he's taken action. He believes in competition, and he'll continue to do the work on that.
If I can ask a broader question on Saudi Arabia. You had mentioned that the president is working with Congress to reevaluate the relationship. What is the time frame for that reevaluated relationship? And a quick follow-up there is also, on this most recent trip to the G20, did any members of the president's delegation meet with some of their Saudi counterparts, Saudi officials?
Yeah, let me take your first question first. So following the OPEC Plus decision, as you said, the president directed his team to reevaluate the relationship with Saudi Arabia. That's what we're doing. And so in consultation with both parties in Congress, longstanding U.S. allies, partners in the region, and with the Saudis, there have already been consequences. I should say Congress has frozen all arms sales. So we have time to determine the broader way forward. And, we have already had preliminary conversations with the Hill, and now that members of Congress are back in Washington, D.C., because as you remember, the president was waiting for Congress to come back to have a more in-depth conversation after the midterms. We're going to start picking up those conversations. I don't have a timeline for you, but we want, as I said earlier, when you look at the relationship with Saudi Arabia, it's a relationship that has been for the last 80 years. And it's always been done when we think about that relationship in a bipartisan way, and that's what the president wants to do. Again, we've had initial conversation with Congress. There has been some consequences, as I just laid out, and now that Congress is back, we'll continue to have those. We'll have those conversations a little bit more in depth, and we'll let you know when those decisions have been made.
And then on the G20 trip, were there meetings with the president's delegation and Saudi officials?
That's a good question. I would have to check with our national security team. I don't have any insight on that at this point.
One follow-up on a domestic question here. Is the president intending to travel to Georgia to campaign for Senator Warnock?
Yeah, so I want to be careful because that runoff election is covered under the Hatch Act, so I want to be really careful on how I answer this. But what I can say to you, the president wants to be as helpful as he can to Senator Warnock, and I will leave it there. Don't have anything to announce as far as any trip or plans to travel to Georgia, but again, the president wants to be as helpful as he can be.
The Supreme Court filing on student loans. This is the same week that Fed Governor Christopher Waller had said that pay increases across the economy should slow because there's too much money, essentially, in the economy. Are there concerns from the administration about the inflationary effects of student loan debt forgiveness?
So look, I want to be careful. Again, the Federal Reserve is an independent body, and so I'm not going to comment on the actions by the Fed or remarks from Fed officials as well. So again, they're independent, and we respect the independence of the Federal Reserve. So I will say this, that the president's top priority is tackling, especially when it comes to the economy, is tackling inflation and lowering prices for the American families. That's why he's taken the actions that he has on gas prices. That's why he's taken, that's why Democrats and the president took the actions that you saw and signed into law. The president signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act. So as the president said today, this week's data shows sign of progress in lowering inflation without giving up any of the economic gains that we have seen the past 20 months. But again, when it comes to this particular federal official that you're asking about, I'm not going to comment. But again, I just laid out more broadly where we see the economic situation.
Specifically on the loans, has the administration analyzed any potential inflationary effects of student loan forgiveness?
Again, by making those comments is kind of connected to what the federal officials.
Okay, full-blown stop,
Okay.
nothing to do with the Fed.
Well, that's the way you asked the question, so that's the way I was answering the
Has
question.
the administration analyzed any potential inflationary effects of student loan forgiveness, the plan that the administration has enacted?
It's a good question that you're asking, but look, the president has always, I don't have any data to share with you on that particular question, but the president has been very clear. He wants to make sure that he's lowering cost for the American people. He feels that the student debt relief, especially as we were talking about lifting the pause at the end of this year, he wanted to make sure that he was giving those families, those American middle-class families, a little bit of a breathing room, especially as they're dealing with cost. And so it was a campaign promise that he had made and that he wanted to keep. But more importantly, he knows that this is going to help tens of millions of Americans across the country, up to 40 million people. And again, this is going to give an opportunity to an American family, a middle-class family across the country, to start a family, to buy a house, and that matters. When you see a number of 26 million people who went to the website to sign up, that tells you how important this plan is.
And finally, does the former president's announcement this week have any bearing on the current president's calculation in his decision as to whether he's going to run again?
So again, Hatch Act, going to be very careful. You're asking me about an election that's coming up in 2024. The president has been very clear that he intends to run, and so I'm going to leave it there.
Ray, can I follow up on the student debt question? Is that all right?
I'm going to take one
Follow
last.
from the student
I'm going to
debt.
take one last question. Go ahead, because I've answered the student debt question multiple times today. But go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to take your
How about the
question.
meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi of India in Bali?
As you know, it was we had a successful G20 leaders summit and a strong leaders declaration. As you know, I know you follow this very closely. President Biden spoke with the Prime Minister and Indonesian President on the margins of the summit, and we issued a readout of their trilateral meeting. India played an essential role in negotiating the summit's declaration. Prime Minister Modi made clear today's era must not be of war. And that's a direct quote from the president. Among other priorities addressed, we have a path forward to addressing current food and energy security challenges while continuing our efforts to build a resilient global economy. Prime Minister Modi's relationship was critical to this outcome, and we look forward to supporting India's G20 presidency next year. We look forward to that next meeting. But we're going to get going. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Can the president speak about COVID-19 with President Xi?